The notification from Capital One arrived at 2:47 a.m. during my junior year at Northwestern. Account alert. Your card ending in 4789 has exceeded its limit. I stared at my phone screen in the darkness of my dorm room, already knowing what I'd find when I logged into my account. $8,000 credit limit. $8,247 balance. I pulled up my other accounts. Chase, maxed. Bank of America, maxed. Discover, maxed. American Express. Emergency authorization for $2,000 over limit. Total damage, $40,247 across 5 credit cards I'd worked 2 jobs to qualify for, all with perfect payment histories I'd maintained since turning 18. My parents had every card number, expiration date, and security code. I'd given them emergency access when I started college, thinking they might need to help with textbooks or medical emergencies. That was 2 years and $40,000 ago. I screenshot everything methodically, just like I'd been doing for the past 18 months. Every unauthorized charge, every maxed out notification, every overlimit fee. I'd learned to document everything after the first time I tried to confront them about smaller charges, and they'd gaslit me into believing I'd forgotten making purchases. You probably bought something online and forgot, Mom had said when I'd questioned a $500 charge at a furniture store 3 states away. You know how scattered you get during finals. But I wasn't scattered. I was a forensic accounting major with a 3.9 GPA who tracked every penny I spent in detailed spreadsheets. I knew exactly what I'd purchased and what I hadn't. The phone rang at 6 a.m. Mom's contact photo filled my screen. The happy family portrait from last Christmas where we all looked like we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. "Honey, we need to talk," she said without preamble. "About what?" "Your credit cards are having some issues. Dad thinks there might have been identity theft." I sat up in my narrow dorm bed, already reaching for my laptop to start recording. Illinois was a one-party consent state. I'd looked that up months ago. What kind of issues? Well, they're all maxed out. We used them for some family emergencies, but we're having trouble making the payments right now. Dad's been between jobs and you know how tight things have been. Family emergencies. I scrolled through my screenshots while she talked. There were charges at luxury restaurants, high-end electronics stores, a weekend trip to Vegas, and what appeared to be a down payment on a new car. "We needed the money more than you," she continued, her voice taking on that familiar tone that meant she was building up to a guilt trip. "You're young and in college. You don't have real expenses like we do. How much did you spend? It's not about the amount, sweetie. It's about family helping family. You'll understand when you're older and have real responsibilities." I pulled up my credit monitoring app. My score had dropped 180 points. I'd gone from excellent credit to barely qualifying for a secured card, all because of charges I'd never made for things I'd never received. "The payment plans are very reasonable," Dad's voice joined the conversation. He'd apparently been listening on speaker. "You'll thank us later when you see how this helped the family through a difficult time." "What kind of payment plans?" "Well, the minimum payments are only about $1,200 a month total across all the cards. Very manageable for someone with your opportunities. $1,200 a month. I made $800 a month working 20 hours a week at the campus library while maintaining a full course load. After tuition, rent, and basic expenses, I had maybe $50 left over each month. Where am I supposed to get $1,200 a month?" "You could get a better job," Mom suggested. "Or take out student loans. That's what they're for, helping students with expenses." These weren't my expenses. The silence stretched for exactly 15 seconds. I counted. "They were family expenses," Dad said finally. "And family helps family. End of discussion." I calmly said, "I understand." But what I understood was different from what they thought I understood. I understood that my parents had committed credit card fraud. I understood that they had no intention of paying the money back. I understood that they expected me to destroy my financial future to cover for their crimes. And I understood that I had enough evidence to bury them. After I hung up, I opened the folder on my laptop labeled Academic Research Project. Inside were 18 months of screenshots, recorded phone calls, and detailed documentation of every unauthorized transaction. Every charge had been cross-referenced with my location at the time, usually 300 miles away on campus. and supported by dining hall records, library logs, and dorm key card swipes that proved I couldn't have made the purchases. I'd been building this case since the first $500 furniture store charge, adding to it every time they used my cards, every time they lied about it, every time they tried to gaslight me into believing I was somehow responsible for their spending. My criminal justice professor had helped me understand the legal framework, though he thought it was theoretical research for a class project. Federal credit card fraud. Identity theft. Wire fraud for the transactions that crossed state lines. Each charge carried potential prison time. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number I'd had saved for 6 months. Morrison and Associates. The receptionist answered. How can I help you? This is Sarah Chin. I need to speak with Attorney Morrison about a criminal referral. James Morrison had been my forensic accounting professor's law school roommate. He specialized in white-collar crime and had agreed to review my theoretical case study the previous semester. He'd been very interested in the thoroughness of my documentation. Sarah, I've been wondering when you'd call. Is this about that family financial fraud case we discussed? It's not theoretical anymore. They maxed out 5 of my credit cards last night. $40,000 total. Do you have the documentation we discussed? Everything. 18 months worth. Screenshots, location data, witness statements, recorded conversations. All legally obtained. Can you be in my office at 2 p.m.? I'll be there. And Sarah, bring everything. If this is as solid as you described in your class project, we're looking at multiple federal charges. I spent the rest of the morning organizing my evidence into a professional presentation. Screenshots were sorted chronologically. Bank statements were highlighted to show impossible spending patterns. GPS data from my phone proved my location during every fraudulent transaction. The most damaging evidence was the recorded phone calls. 6 months of conversations where my parents admitted to using my credit cards, discussed which cards had available credit, and planned purchases they intended to make with my accounts. We can use Sarah's Chase card for the trip, Mom's voice said in one recording from March. She never checks that one carefully. What if she notices? Dad asked. We'll tell her it was a family emergency. She's always been too soft to push back. Too soft to push back. That's what they'd always believed about me. The quiet daughter who never caused trouble, who always tried to keep peace in the family, who absorbed their financial problems without complaint. They had no idea that quiet didn't mean weak. They had no idea that I'd been systematically documenting their crimes for a year and a half. They had no idea that their soft daughter was about to destroy their lives. Attorney Morrison's office was downtown, on the 15th floor of a glass building that screamed expensive legal representation. I'd worn my best interview suit and carried a leather portfolio that contained enough evidence to send my parents to federal prison. Sarah, he stood as his secretary showed me in. I've been looking forward to this conversation. For the next 2 hours we went through everything. Every transaction, every recorded conversation, every piece of supporting documentation. Morrison's expression grew more serious as we progressed through the timeline. This is extraordinary, he said finally. I've prosecuted white-collar crime for 15 years, and I've rarely seen evidence this comprehensive from a victim. You've essentially built the government's case for them. What happens now? Now we decide how you want to proceed. You could file a civil lawsuit to recover the money, but given your parents' financial situation, that might be throwing good money after bad. The criminal route is more likely to get results. What would criminal charges mean? Federal credit card fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. Each card they used fraudulently is a separate count. We're looking at potentially 25 federal felony charges. The sentencing guidelines would likely result in 3 to 5 years in federal prison for each parent. I thought about the last 2 years. The stress of watching my credit score plummet while trying to maintain my grades. The part-time jobs I'd worked to try to stay afloat while my parents spent money I didn't have. The gaslighting, the manipulation, the complete disregard for my financial future. They destroyed my credit to pay for vacations and luxury items. They expected me to take out student loans to cover their spending. They called me soft and selfish when I tried to question them. The evidence supports charges that carry serious prison time, Morrison confirmed. But I need to be clear. Once we involve federal prosecutors, this becomes criminal. Your parents will be arrested, charged, and prosecuted. There's no going back from that. Will I get my money back? Restitution is part of the sentencing process in federal cases. They'll be required to pay back every penny, plus interest and penalties. The court will garnish wages, seize assets, whatever it takes. I looked out the window at the city below, thinking about the phone call that morning. You'll thank us later, Dad had said. Family helps family, Mom had insisted. I want to proceed with criminal charges. Morrison nodded. I'll prepare the complaint and evidence package for the U.S. Attorney's Office. Given the strength of your documentation, I expect they'll move quickly. How quickly? Search warrants within a week. Arrests within 2 weeks. Your parents won't see this coming. That evening I called my parents to check in just like I had every Sunday for the past 3 years. Normal conversation about classes, weather, family gossip. They mentioned being stressed about money, but confident they'd figure something out. You've always been such a good daughter, Mom said. Never giving us trouble, always understanding when family needs come first. Family is important, I agreed. Exactly. Some children would make a big fuss about the credit card situation, but you understand that we're all in this together. I do understand. 3 days later, Morrison called with an update. The U.S. Attorney's Office has accepted the case. They're calling it one of the most well-documented family fraud cases they've seen. Search warrants have been approved for your parents' home, vehicles, and financial accounts. When? Tomorrow morning. They'll execute the warrants simultaneously and make arrests if your parents are present. Do you want me to be there when they call you? Why would they call me? You're the victim and star witness. They'll need an official statement, and your parents will probably try to contact you after they're arrested. I thought about that for a moment. Can I block their calls? You can, but I'd recommend taking at least one. Let them make statements about the charges. Anything they say to you can be used as evidence. The call came at 6:47 a.m. on Thursday. Dad's number but Mom's voice. Sarah, honey, there's been a terrible mistake. The FBI came to our house with a warrant. They're saying we stole from you, but you know that's not true. We're family. In the background I could hear Dad talking to someone, his voice strained and higher than usual. They arrested Dad, Mom continued. They took our computers, our phones, all our financial records. They're saying 25 federal charges. This has to be a mistake. What kind of charges? Credit card fraud. Wire fraud. Identity theft. But we're family. You gave us permission to use those cards. When did I give you permission? Silence. Then, well, you gave us the numbers for emergencies. I gave you the numbers for emergencies. Vacations and electronics and furniture aren't emergencies. Sarah, you have to call them and tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Tell them we're family and we work these things out together. I looked at my laptop screen where I had 18 months of evidence organized in neat folders. Screenshots of $300 dinners at steakhouses while I ate ramen noodles. Charges for luxury hotels while I worked extra shifts to pay rent. A $2,000 purchase at Best Buy on the same day they'd lectured me about being more responsible with money. I can't do that, Mom. What do you mean you can't? You're our daughter. I mean, I can't lie to federal investigators. The charges aren't a misunderstanding. I have records of everything. The silence stretched longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Harder. You did this. You called the police on your own family. You stole $40,000 from me and destroyed my credit. You committed federal crimes and expected me to cover for you. We raised you. We fed you and clothed you and put a roof over your head for 18 years. And then you stole from me for 2 years. We're even. I hung up and immediately called Morrison. How did it go? He asked. She confessed to using the cards and tried to get me to lie to investigators. All recorded. Perfect. The prosecutors will love that. How are you holding up? I thought about the question. How was I holding up? I was 20 years old, sitting in a dorm room having just helped send my parents to federal prison. I should probably feel terrible. Said I felt relieved. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't worried about unauthorized charges appearing on my credit cards. I wasn't dreading phone calls about money I didn't have. I wasn't carrying the weight of their financial irresponsibility on my shoulders. I'm okay, I said and realized I meant it. Good. The next few months will be difficult as the case proceeds, but you've done the right thing. No one should have to choose between family and financial survival. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following month. Both parents were released on bond with conditions that included no contact with me and no access to any financial accounts that weren't pre-approved by their probation officers. They tried calling from different numbers, sending letters through other relatives, even showing up at my dorm building. Each contact was documented and reported to their probation officers, adding violations to their growing legal problems. My aunt called 2 weeks after the arrests. "Sarah, honey, your parents made mistakes, but prison? Their family. Surely you can work something out. They committed federal crimes. There's nothing to work out. But they're your parents. They love you. People who love me don't steal from me and destroy my credit. Money isn't everything. Family is forever. Money isn't everything, but it's something. And they took all of it." The trial proceeded quickly. Federal prosecutors had 18 months of evidence, recorded confessions and financial records that showed a clear pattern of fraud. My parents' public defender recommended plea deals. Both parents pled guilty to multiple counts of credit card fraud and identity theft. Dad received 4 years in federal prison plus 5 years of supervised probation. Mom received 3.5 years plus probation. Both were ordered to pay full restitution of $47,000. The original $40,000 plus interest and penalties. The judge's comments during sentencing stayed with me. The defendants violated not just federal law, but the fundamental trust between parents and children. They used their position as parents to gain access to their daughter's financial information, then systematically exploited that access for personal gain. The damage to the victim extends beyond money to include psychological harm and damaged credit that will affect her for years to come. Restitution payments started immediately, garnished from both parents' prison jobs at 25 cents per hour. At that rate, they'd be paying me back for approximately 47 years. 6 months after sentencing, I received a letter from Mom. The envelope was marked with the federal prison's return address. "Dear Sarah," it began, "I've had a lot of time to think about what happened. I want you to know that I'm sorry for the pain we caused you, but I still believe family should stick together through difficult times. I hope someday you'll forgive us and we can rebuild our relationship." I filed the letter in my evidence folder just in case. Then I checked my credit report, slowly improving thanks to the court-ordered restitution and my continued good payment habits. My credit score had recovered to 720. I'd been approved for a new apartment with no cosigner required. I'd received 3 job offers for after graduation, all with starting salaries that would let me build a real financial foundation. For the first time in my adult life, I was in complete control of my own finances. No unauthorized charges, no surprise bills, no family emergencies that weren't actually emergencies. I thought about Mom's letter about forgiveness and rebuilding relationships. Maybe someday I'd be ready for that conversation. But today I had final exams to study for and a future to build. A future funded entirely by my own work, protected by my own careful documentation, and secured by my own willingness to stand up for myself when standing up mattered most. The girl who'd been too soft to push back, had learned to push back just fine. She'd learned to document everything, trust but verify, and never again mistake quiet for weak. Some lessons cost $40,000 and 2 parents' freedom to learn. But some lessons are worth the price.
I stood in the doorway of what used to be my bedroom, still wearing my hospital bracelet. The room looked completely different. The walls I had painted green were now covered in bright pink wallpaper. My photos were gone, replaced with pictures of my sister-in-law, Amanda. Even my bed, my expensive memory foam mattress, was buried under shiny pillows and unicorn toys. "This is her room now," my mother-in-law Margaret said with a smirk. She stood behind Amanda, resting her hands on her shoulders like she had won something. "We thought it was time for some changes." I stood still, careful not to hurt my stomach, which was still healing from surgery. I had just spent a week in a hospital after an emergency operation. Coming home to this was a shock, but maybe I should have expected it. "Interesting timing," I said calmly, though my mind was racing. This wasn't just about a room. Margaret had been trying to push me out of this house for years. Amanda spun around in my grandmother's old vanity chair. "Mom thought this would be perfect for me while I look for a job in the city," she said sweetly. "It's so much better than that tiny guest room." I saw Margaret watching my reaction in the mirror. She had never liked me. In her eyes, I wasn't good enough for her son, Michael. I didn't come from a wealthy family, and no matter how hard I worked, she never respected me. And where are my things? I asked, already guessing the answer. Oh, we put them in the basement, Margaret said. Most of it was old anyway. Amanda needs space. I nodded, trying to stay calm. And Michael? What does he think about this? Amanda hesitated, but Margaret spoke quickly. Michael understands that family helps each other. Amanda is going through a tough time. Right? By tough time, she meant Amanda had cheated on her fiancé and got kicked out of her apartment. But Margaret always defended her daughter. I stepped further into the room, feeling the stitches in my stomach pulse slightly. Well, this is unexpected, I said. But timing is everything. Margaret's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I smiled, but not kindly. Nothing. Just something to think about. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, Amanda, be careful with that vanity. The left drawer sticks sometimes. As I walked downstairs, I heard them whispering behind me. They thought they had won, that I would give up. But they had no idea what was coming. I sat down in my home office, the one room they hadn't touched. My laptop was right where I had left it. Good. This room held all the important documents, and I had been preparing for something like this for months. I opened my email. 3 days, that's all I needed. I had set this plan in motion long ago, after Margaret's last attempt to control my life. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Michael. Just heard from Mom. Hope you're okay with the room situation. Amanda really needs our support right now. I stared at the message, feeling a mix of disappointment and determination. Michael always tried to please everyone. But this time, he had made the wrong choice. It's fine, I texted back. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. I pulled out a folder from my safe, running my fingers over the important papers inside. The house deed, insurance documents, and the one paper that would change everything. 3 days, I whispered to myself. Just 3 days. Upstairs, Amanda laughed loudly as she rearranged more furniture. Let them enjoy this moment. In 3 days, they would realize they had made a huge mistake. The next morning, I woke up on a couch in the living room. Loud music blasted from upstairs. Amanda's music. My stomach hurt as I sat up. A painful reminder that I was supposed to be resting. Instead, I was stuck here while Amanda took over my bedroom. Margaret walked in, dressed in her fancy clothes. Oh good, you're awake. Amanda needs to use the shower, so you'll have to wait. I checked my phone. 7:15 a.m. 2 days and 16 hours left. Actually, I said, standing up slowly, I have an appointment this morning. Margaret frowned. An appointment? Shouldn't you be resting? It's just a quick meeting with my lawyer, nothing too tiring. I kept my voice light. Margaret's face changed for a second. Was that fear? But she quickly covered it up. Lawyer? What lawyer? Oh, just updating some documents after my hospital stay. Normal stuff. I grabbed my things, enjoying the way she shifted uncomfortably. As I walked toward the door, Margaret called after me. Does Michael know about this? I turned back and smiled. He will. At the law office, my friend Patricia Chen was waiting. She had known me since college, and she had seen enough of Margaret's behavior to understand the situation. Everything's ready, Patricia said, sliding a folder across the desk. Are you sure? Once we file these, there's no going back. I looked through the papers. They took over my bedroom while I was in the hospital, Patty. If I don't stop them now, they won't stop until I'm completely pushed out. And Michael? Still refusing to stand up to them. I sighed. He thinks if he ignores the problem, it'll go away. But this time he's wrong. Patricia nodded. All right, I'll file these today. They'll get the notification in about 48 hours. Perfect. When I got home, Amanda was on my couch, surrounded by expensive shopping bags. She didn't even look up from her phone. Mom said you went to see a lawyer, she said, pretending not to care but clearly curious. Just routine paperwork, I said, heading to my office. I had to check if phase 2 was ready. You know, Amanda called after me. Mom thinks you're planning something, but it won't work. This is our house now. I stop at my office door. Our house. Yeah, she said smugly. Mom says Michael is the only one with a real career, so technically everything belongs to him. And we're his real family. I thought about the documents Patricia was filing, the plan I had set in motion months ago. Interesting. I said before closing the door behind me. That evening, Michael finally came home. He found me in my office, working on my laptop. "Hey," he said, hesitating. "Mom said you went to see a lawyer?" I looked up at him, really looked at him. My husband of 5 years. The man who never stood up to his mother. The man who let his sister take over our bedroom. "Yes, I did." He ran a hand through his hair, looking nervous. "Look, I know the bedroom situation isn't great, but it's only temporary. Amanda's going through a rough time." I cut him off. "When I was in the hospital, did you know what they were planning?" His silence told me everything. "Right," I said, turning back to my laptop. "You should know things are going to change soon." "What does that mean?" he asked, his voice uneasy. "In 36 hours, your mother and sister are going to learn some interesting things about property ownership and legal rights." He tried to laugh. "Come on, you're overreacting. Mom's just helping Amanda get back on her feet." I shut my laptop and stood up, feeling the stitches pull slightly. "No, Michael. Your mother is trying to push me out, and you're letting her. But what none of you know is that I've been keeping records. Every time they move my things, every manipulative comment, every attempt to take over. And in 36 hours, all of it is going to matter." His face paled. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you should tell them to start packing, because when those papers arrive, everything will change." "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice shook. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. "Remember last year when your mom tried to sell my grandmother's antiques while we were on vacation? That's when I started preparing. This has everything: photos, videos, legal documents. In 36 hours, it all becomes public record." Michael looked at the envelope, then at me. For the first time, he looked truly afraid. "What have you done?" he whispered. I sat back down, calm and in control. "I protected myself, since you wouldn't." The letter arrived exactly when Patricia said it would. I was in my office when I heard Margaret's loud, angry voice. "What is this? What have you done?" I walked into the living room. Margaret stood there, shaking, holding the papers. Amanda was nearby, looking pale. Michael sat on the couch, his head in his hands. "Oh, good," I said calmly. "You got the notice." Margaret's hands trembled. This says that I own this house?" I finished for her. "Yes, it does." Amanda gasped. "That's impossible. This is Michael's house." I shook my head. "No, it's not. Last year, when Margaret tried to sell my grandmother's antiques, I realized I needed to protect myself. So I bought Michael's share of the house. He signed the papers himself." Michael lifted his head, his face pale. "The refinancing documents, the ones you said were just updating our mortgage." "Exactly," I said. "You signed over your part of the house to me. It's all legal. Even your mother signed as a witness." Margaret's face turned white. "I never signed." "Check page 3, I said. "See? Right under witness. Remember when you rushed to sign those HOA papers I brought home? You should have read them more carefully." They all went silent. It finally hit them. I had outsmarted them. I crossed my arms. "The second set of papers lists every time you damaged my property, including taking over my bedroom." "You can't kick us out," Amanda yelled. "We're family." "Actually, I can, and I am." I looked at my watch. "You have 24 hours to leave. Anything left behind will be thrown out." Margaret turned to Michael. "Are you just going to let her do this to us?" Michael sat still, finally understanding everything. "You planned this," he said softly. "No," I corrected him. "I prepared." "That's different. I hoped I wouldn't have to do this, but when your mother and sister took over our bedroom while I was in the hospital, they crossed the line." Margaret scoffed. "We were trying to help." "No, you were trying to push me out. You've been trying since the day I married Michael." "But I'm not someone you can bully away. I worked hard for this house, and I protected myself." I took out my phone. "The police are on speed dial. You can leave now, or they can remove you in 24 hours. Your choice." Amanda burst into tears and ran upstairs. Margaret stood frozen, still gripping the papers. "This isn't over," she hissed. "It is," I said. "And if you ever step onto my property again without permission, I'll press charges. I have years of proof." After they left, Michael and I sat in silence. "I'll pack my things too," he finally said. "Probably best," I replied. "The divorce papers are in that pile." Patricia will contact your lawyer. He looked at me, half admiring, half regretful. You really planned for everything. I had to. I said you weren't going to protect me, so I protected myself. That night, I lay in my own bed, finally at peace. The awful pink wallpaper was already peeling, revealing my sage green paint underneath. Tomorrow, I'd start fixing everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Papers filed. You're officially free. I smiled. Margaret and Amanda had thought they could take everything from me, but their biggest mistake, underestimating me. The next morning, sunlight filled my room. The house was quiet. I opened a stuck drawer on my vanity, the one they had complained about. Inside were the property documents that had sealed their fate. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's being smart, protecting yourself, and knowing when to walk away. As I pulled down the ugly wallpaper, I smiled. They had celebrated too soon, but I would celebrate the right way, by rebuilding my life exactly how I wanted. You get nothing in the divorce, my mother-in-law, Linda said with a smirk, waving some papers in my face. My son never registered your marriage. You're not even his real wife. I kept folding laundry, staying calm. Thanks for letting me know, Linda, I said, smoothing out David's dress shirt. She slammed the papers onto my folded clothes. Did you hear me? You're nothing. Just a woman who played house with my son. When he marries Olivia, she'll be his real wife. I looked at her and simply asked, is there anything else? My name is Alexandra. I had just learned that my 8-year marriage was a lie. But while Linda gloated, I thought about the safety deposit box at the bank, the one holding the real marriage papers I had secretly filed years ago. Linda frowned when I didn't react. You're not even upset. David is leaving you for a real woman, and you're acting like I just told you the weather. I picked up my laundry basket. I have dinner to make. Will you be staying? Her face turned red. You're delusional. When David hands you divorce papers tomorrow, don't say I didn't warn you. Olivia's already picking out new curtains. She stormed out. The moment her car drove away, I let out a deep breath and dialed a familiar number. Alexandra, said Margaret, my late mother's best friend and our family lawyer. I was wondering when you'd call. It's happening, I said. Linda just told me my marriage isn't legally registered. David's serving me divorce papers tomorrow. And the proof? Still in the safety deposit box. Smart girl, Margaret said. We have years of evidence, joint accounts, property, your contributions to the business. Linda made a mistake showing her hand so soon. I stared out the kitchen window at the garden I had planted. David and I were happy once. Then his family interfered. Then Olivia, his secretary, started staying late. Then came the lies. A car pulled up. David was home early for the first time in months. How fitting. I wiped my eyes and started cooking like nothing had changed. Alex, his voice was unsure. We need to talk. I turned to face him. About the divorce papers, or the fact that you never legally registered our marriage. His face went pale. How did you? Linda told me, I said, stirring the food. I can explain. Let me guess, I interrupted. Your mother convinced you it was for the best. Just a way to protect family assets. Did I miss anything? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Alex, please. You have to understand. Oh, I understand, I said. I understand that you and your family lied to me for 8 years, that you're leaving me for your secretary, and that you all think I'll walk away with nothing. A flicker of relief crossed his face. He expected tears. Begging. Instead, I set the table like it was any other night. I'll help you, he offered. A small settlement, maybe help with rent. I placed 2 plates down. That's very thoughtful of you. Will you be staying for dinner? He stared at me. Did you hear me? I'm leaving you. This house, everything, it's not yours. I smiled, thinking of the safety deposit box. Eat while it's hot. Tomorrow will be interesting. You're acting weird, he muttered, backing away. No, I said, sitting down. I've just changed. He left without eating. I finished dinner, then went upstairs to pack an overnight bag. Before bed, I made one last call. Hello, Officer Martinez. It's Alexandra Harrison. Remember that file I asked you to keep safe? It's time to use it. I was already at Margaret's office when David and his family arrived. Their confident smiles faded into confusion when they saw me. Linda clutched her expensive handbag. Thomas stood stiffly, and Olivia lingered at the back, clearly trying to outshine me. What is she doing here? Linda snapped at Margaret. This meeting is just to confirm their marriage was never legal. Margaret smiled, a sharp, knowing smile. Please have a seat. Alexandra has some documents to share. David scoffed. There are no documents. That's the whole point. I calmly opened my bag and placed a stack of papers on Margaret's desk. Actually, there are quite a few. Margaret held up the first one, the legal marriage registration I had secretly filed 8 years ago. Linda's face turned pale. That's impossible, she whispered. You made sure to destroy the copy you took from the registry office. I finished. But you didn't know I filed it myself. My mother's best friend being a lawyer taught me to protect myself. David grabbed the paper, his hands shaking. This can't be real. Oh, it's very real, Margaret said, spreading out more documents. Bank records showing Alexandra's contributions, property investments in both names, and even company emails praising her work in the business. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Those were internal messages, which became legal evidence the moment you tried to deceive her, Margaret cut in. But we're not done yet. Alexandra. I pulled out the final file, the one Officer Martinez had been keeping safe. These are records of every conversation where you and Linda plan to keep the marriage unregistered. Phone transcripts, emails, texts. Your mother was very thorough in documenting how you would protect the family assets. Linda's face turned gray. You recorded us? That's illegal. Not in this state, Margaret replied smoothly, especially when fraud is involved. David shot up from his seat. This is ridiculous. Even if the marriage is legal, I'm still divorcing her. She'll get a basic settlement and nothing more. About that, I said, handing him one last paper. His face drained of color as he read it. Margaret explained, this contract, which David signed 3 years ago, makes Alexandra a 50% owner of the family business, in exchange for her help securing the Anderson merger. You didn't even read it before signing, did you? I asked. David swallowed hard. 50%, he muttered. Thomas snatched the paper. You fool, he hissed. Olivia, finally speaking up, looked at David in shock. You said this would be simple. I let out a small laugh. Nothing about this has been simple. For 8 years, I watched and documented everything. I learned from the best. My mother and Margaret taught me to always be prepared. Linda's tone changed. We can make a deal. Name your price. I stood gathering my things. You already tried to name my price, a small settlement and help with rent. But I don't think you can afford me now. David's voice was hollow. What do you want? Everything I'm legally entitled to. Half of the house, the business, the assets. And I want you to explain to the board why I now own part of the company you tried to cut me out of. Thomas groaned. The board will never accept this scandal. Margaret shrugged. Then you better find a way to handle it quietly. Alexandra has been more than reasonable. Reasonable, Linda shrieked. She's destroying our family. I looked her in the eye. No, Linda. You destroyed your family the moment you built my marriage on a lie. I just refused to be your victim. As I walked out, I heard David call my name. I didn't turn back. Let him deal with the mess he made. My phone buzzed with a text from Officer Martinez. Everything go as planned. Better. I replied. Turns out being underestimated has its advantages. 3 months after the meeting in Margaret's office, I sat in my new corner office overlooking the city. The Harrison family business had undergone significant changes, most notably my promotion to co-CEO. The board, initially shocked by the revelations, had quickly recognized that my connections and business acumen were assets they couldn't afford to lose. David had moved out of our house, taking Olivia with him. Last I heard, they were living in a modest apartment across town. Quite a step down from the lifestyle he promised her. Linda had suddenly developed a passion for extended cruises, conveniently absent from most family business matters. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Thomas, looking older than his years. Alexandra, he said, clutching a folder. The quarterly reports. We're up 20% since you took over the international division. I accepted the folder with a nod. Thank you, Thomas. Was there something else? He hesitated, then sank into one of my visitor chairs. I owe you an apology. We all do, but I should have known better. The signs were there, your intelligence, your dedication to the company. Instead, I let Linda convince me that you were a threat to our family's legacy. The irony, I replied, is that I would have helped build that legacy willingly. All I wanted was to be treated with respect. I know that now, he said quietly. David was a fool to let you go, to let his mother's prejudices bind him to what was right in front of him. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to prove myself worthy of the Harrison name, never realizing that I was already worth more than their schemes and manipulation. How is he? I asked, more out of courtesy than concern. Struggling, Thomas admitted. Olivia left last week. Apparently, the reality of dating a man who lives off his reduced trust fund wasn't as appealing as the fantasy of being a CEO's wife. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. And Linda, still finding herself on various cruise ships, though I suspect she's mostly hiding from the society gossip, your success hasn't gone unnoticed. I picked up a magazine from my desk. My face was on the cover, under the headline Harrison Industries' New Leadership. A story of resilience and innovation. Success is the best revenge, I said, quoting my mother's favorite phrase. Thomas stood to leave, then paused. Your mother would be proud of you, Alexandra. She raised a daughter who couldn't be broken. After you left, I walked to the window, watching the city buzz below. My phone lit up with a message from Margaret. Dinner tonight? We should celebrate your latest acquisition. I smiled, thinking of the small technology firm I'd just purchased, one that David had been trying to acquire for years. Definitely, I replied. I have some news to share. The news in question sat in an envelope on my desk, an offer to buy out the Harrison family's remaining shares in the company. Thomas would stay on as an advisor, but the rest, including David's trust fund shares, would be transferred to my ownership. I learned something valuable through all of this. Sometimes people's worst intentions can lead to your best opportunities. David and his family had tried to ensure I would end up with nothing, but their deception had pushed me to document everything, to protect myself in ways that ultimately gave me more than I'd ever imagined. Later that evening, over dinner with Margaret, I finally allowed myself to reflect on the journey. Do you think I was too harsh? I asked, taking everything they tried to deny me. Margaret set down her wine glass. You took what you earned, Alexandra. Every share, every position, every bit of respect. You earned it all. They're the ones who tried to take everything from you. She was right, of course. I thought about the young woman I'd been 8 years ago, so eager to please, so willing to prove herself worthy of the Harrison name. That woman was gone, replaced by someone stronger. Someone who understood that worth isn't given by others, it's claimed by yourself. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Linda. We need to talk. About the buyout offer. I turned off my phone without replying. She'd learned soon enough that the tables had turned permanently. The woman they tried to erase had become the one person they couldn't ignore. To new beginnings, Margaret raised her glass. To karma, I countered, clinking my glass against hers. Looking out at the city lights, I felt at peace. Sometimes life's greatest victories come not from fighting back, but from being prepared when others show their true colors. David, Linda, and their schemes had taught me that lesson well. I'd lost a husband but gained an empire. In the end, I couldn't have planned it better myself. Get out. This is my son's house. Patricia yelled, throwing my clothes down the stairs. Her face was red with anger. I've put up with you for 5 years, but enough is enough. Pack your things and leave. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, calm as I watched my mother-in-law's tantrum. My soft cashmere sweater, Michael's Christmas gift, landed at my feet, followed by my favorite jeans. This is my house too, I said quietly, picking up my clothes. Michael and I bought it together. Patricia laughed, sharp and cruel. Oh, sweetie, is that what you think? Michael bought this house before he met you. You're just here because he lets you stay. I knew that wasn't true. I had all the paperwork to prove it, but I didn't argue. Instead, I carefully folded my clothes and placed them in my bag. My name is Emma Davis. I'm 32 years old, and today my mother-in-law was kicking me out of my own home while my husband was away on a medical mission in Guatemala. Michael, a skilled surgeon, had left 2 weeks ago. Patricia had moved in, claiming she wanted to help while he was gone. From the start, I had a bad feeling about it. Patricia never liked me. She thought Michael deserved someone better than a high school art teacher, but this throwing me out was a new low. I already called Michael, Patricia said smugly, walking down the stairs. He agrees you should leave. He wanted to tell you for months, but he's too nice. I stopped packing and looked at her. Patricia was a skilled liar. She loved to manipulate people. But something was off this time. Her hands were shaking slightly, her eyes nervous. Really? I asked. That's funny because the satellite phone at Michael's camp has been down for 3 days. I got an email about it this morning. For a split second, Patricia froze. Then she quickly recovered. He called before that, obviously. I've been planning this for a while. I didn't believe her. Something had scared her. Then I remembered, yesterday, I had been organizing Michael's office. This is about the papers you were looking for, isn't it? Patricia's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. I was just tidying up. Right? I said, zipping my bag. That's why you searched every drawer and folder. Because you were tidying. A few months ago, I had installed a small security camera in Michael's office. Every time Patricia visited, things seemed out of place. Michael thought I was being paranoid, but I wanted proof. You had no right to spy on me, she shouted. This is exactly why you need to leave. You're paranoid and unstable. Michael will be better off without you. I slung my bag over my shoulder and grabbed my laptop and a small box of watercolors. Michael's gift from Florence. I'll be back for the rest of my things later. Don't bother. Patricia snapped. I'll change the locks. And don't try to contact Michael. I'll tell him who you really are. I glanced back at her, standing in my foyer with a victorious smile. But in the mirror behind her, I saw something important. The small USB drive I had left on the side table, labeled security footage. Goodbye, Patricia, I said softly. See you soon. As I drove away, I smiled. Patricia thought she had won. She had no idea I had been preparing for this moment for years. I pulled into the Golden Grove Hotel, where I had booked a room yesterday after catching Patricia snooping in Michael's office. She had been searching for something important, muttering about those damn papers. In my hotel room, I opened my laptop and accessed my cloud storage. Years of dealing with Patricia had taught me to be prepared. Every important document, every bank statement, every legal paper, safe and backed up. I watched the security footage. There she was, digging through Michael's office, frustration growing as she failed to find what she wanted. Of course, she didn't find it. The documents weren't in the office at all. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. Hey, David, I said. Remember that plan we talked about? It's time. Patricia finally made her move, he asked. Yes, she kicked me out today, saying Michael wanted me gone. And the documents she was looking for. I smiled, thinking of the safe deposit box where I had hidden them. Still secure. She has no idea. Good, David said. Give me 24 hours. And Emma, get some rest. The next few weeks are going to be interesting. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Patricia thought she had won, but she had just walked into my trap. Sometimes the best revenge is letting your enemy think they've won, until they realize they've lost everything. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Patricia and a flood of frantic text messages. My favorite was the last one. The USB drive is missing. What did you do with it? I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to a local cafe to meet Sarah, Michael's sister. Unlike her mother, Sarah had never been fooled by Patricia's tricks. She did what? Sarah gasped when I told her about being kicked out. That's crazy, even for Mom. What was she looking for in Michael's office? I stirred my coffee. I think she finally realized the truth about the trust. Sarah's eyes widened. You mean? Yes. The one your grandmother left for Michael. The one Patricia has been trying to control for years. 5 years ago, at my wedding, Michael's grandmother had pulled me aside. She had told me about the trust, nearly $2 million, set aside for Michael. But she also warned me about Patricia. Patricia thinks I don't know, she had said, but she's been trying to get Michael to sign it over to her for years. Promise me you'll protect it. I had promised, and I had kept that promise even after Grandma Rose passed away. Mom's been obsessed with that trust since Grandma died, Sarah sighed. She keeps insisting there are papers that give her access. There aren't, I said. I was there when Grandma updated the trust before she passed. She made me co-trustee alongside Michael. Patricia can never touch it. Sarah smirked. No wonder Mom hates you. But why now? Because the trust becomes fully accessible next month on Michael's 35th birthday. She's running out of time. I pulled out my phone and showed Sarah the security footage of Patricia tearing through Michael's office. She's going to tell Michael you were spying on her, Sarah warned. I know, that's why I have emails from both Michael and our insurance company approving the security system. After that break-in last year, remember? Sarah laughed. You think of everything, don't you? I have to. Your mom's been trying to get rid of me since day one. Just then, another message from Patricia popped up. I've spoken to a lawyer. You have no right to those security cameras. Remove them immediately. I showed it to Sarah. She rolled her eyes. Classic mom, always bluffing. So what's your next move? I smiled. Actually, I need your help. How's your acting? 2 hours later, Sarah rang Patricia's doorbell while I waited in the car. Her phone was connected to mine so I could hear everything. Sarah, Patricia sounded surprised. What are you doing here? Mom, what did you do? Sarah's voice was sharp, full of concern. Emma called me in tears. She said you threw her out. Oh, honey, I had to, Patricia said sweetly. She's been acting strange, installing cameras, going through Michael's things. I'm worried about her mental state. Really? Sarah said. Because I talked to Michael yesterday, his satellite phone is working again. He was confused about why Emma wasn't answering at home. Silence. Then Patricia said, That's impossible. The phone's been down. No, they fixed it 3 days ago. Mom, why were you in Michael's office? I wasn't. Emma's lying. She has video footage, Mom. What were you looking for? Another long pause. Then Patricia's voice turned cold. That little gold digger has no right to control your brother's trust. I'm his mother. I know what's best for him. The trust? Sarah asked, acting surprised. What trust? Don't play dumb. The one Grandma left for Michael. $2 million, and that art teacher gets to control half of it. Mom, Sarah said slowly, how do you know how much is in the trust? Those details are private. Patricia hesitated. I just assumed. Did you go through Grandma's papers before she died? Is that why you were searching Michael's office? Get out. Patricia snapped. You and Emma are always accusing me. Get out of my house. It's not your house, Mom, Sarah said, and I recorded this entire conversation. A door slammed. A minute later, Sarah got back in my car, grinning. Got it all, she said, holding up her phone. I saved the recording to my cloud storage, along with the security footage and the trust documents Patricia had been so desperate to find. What now? Sarah asked. Now we wait, I said. She's going to get desperate. She'll probably tell Michael I'm stealing from him or having an affair. She might even try to forge documents. And you're just going to let her. I thought about the years of evidence I had collected, every lie, every threat, every shady move Patricia had made. Sometimes, I said, you have to let people dig their own graves. The next 3 weeks went exactly as I expected. Patricia got more desperate, trying to ruin my reputation. She posted online about her troubled daughter-in-law, sent emails to Michael's coworkers claiming I was unstable, and even hired a private investigator to follow me. What she didn't know was that every move she made was just more proof against her. Then, 1 week before Michael was supposed to come home, she made her biggest mistake. Early in the morning, my phone rang. It was David. She did it, he said. Patricia just tried to submit fake documents to the trust administrator. I sat up in bed, instantly awake. Let me guess. She forged Grandma Rose's signature, making it look like she gave her control. Even better, David replied. She forged Michael's signature, claiming he signed everything over to her before leaving for Guatemala. But she didn't realize the trust requires in-person verification. I smiled. Perfect. Time to end this. 3 hours later, I walked into David's office. Patricia was already there with her lawyer. She looked smug until Sarah walked in behind me. What is this? Patricia snapped. I'm here to discuss the trust, not have a family meeting. Oh, this is definitely about family, I said, opening my laptop. Specifically, how you tried to steal from your own son. Patricia's lawyer frowned. Be careful with your accusations. They're not accusations, David said, handing out documents. It's all here, 5 years of evidence, starting with Patricia trying to access the trust without permission. leading up to the fake documents she submitted this morning. Patricia's face went pale as she flipped through the papers. These are lies. Really? I said. Then I clicked play on my laptop. Her own voice filled the room. That little gold digger has no right to control your brother's trust. I'm his mother. I looked at her. That's you, confessing to Sarah. Along with security footage of you searching Michael's office, your threatening emails to me, and of course, the fake documents you submitted. Patricia turned to her lawyer, looking panicked. They can't use these recordings. I didn't give permission. David spoke up. In this state, we only need one person's consent. And as you'll see on page 12, you signed an agreement allowing the security cameras 3 months ago. Patricia's hands shook. What do you want? She whispered. I met her eyes. 3 things. 1, you will remove your name from all of Michael's accounts. 2, you will sign a legal document saying you will never interfere with the trust again. And 3, I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. You will tell Michael the truth when he gets back. All of it. And if I don't? She asked. Sarah finally spoke. Then we go to the police, Mom. The fraud, the forgery, everything. Patricia's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. You'd send your own mother to jail. Sarah's voice was calm. You tried to steal $2 million from your own son. What did you think was going to happen? 2 days later, I moved back into my house. Patricia had left without a word, taking her things and her schemes with her. I spent the next few days undoing the damage she had done, putting back pictures she had taken down, and fixing up my art studio. When Michael finally came home, tanned and tired from his trip, Patricia was waiting at the airport with us. The moment he saw her face, he knew something was wrong. Mom, he asked, what's going on? Patricia looked at me, then at Sarah, before finally meeting her son's eyes. I need to tell you something, she said quietly, about what I did while you were gone. That night, after she had confessed and left in tears, Michael and I sat together in our living room. He shook his head in disbelief. I can't believe she tried to steal from us, he said. All these years, I thought you were just being paranoid about her. I knew you needed to see it for yourself, I said. That's why I documented everything. He pulled me close. Grandma was right about you, you know. The day before our wedding, she told me you were stronger than anyone realized, that you protect our family better than I ever could. I thought about Grandma Rose. Her final gift to us wasn't just the trust, but the warning about Patricia, the wisdom to be prepared. Michael continued. She told me something else too. She said sometimes the strongest people don't fight back right away. They wait, they watch, and they win. I smiled, remembering Patricia's face when she realized how badly she had lost. Your grandmother was a wise woman, I said. Michael kissed my forehead. And so is my wife. Looking around our peaceful home, I felt a deep sense of victory. Patricia had underestimated me, thinking I was just another person she could control. Instead, she learned a lesson she would never forget. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one